Tonight, Air Force plane on surveillance mission to Niger State crash lands in Abuja, killing all passengers and crew on board. Police invite former Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha for questioning after commotion at a confiscated property linked to his wife in Owerri. Bandits killed 2 persons, kidnapped 9 others in Baka village in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. And a crowd of protesters mourn woman killed during protests against military coup in Myanmar. Plus sports and international news. It has been a day of mourning for the Nigerian military and a little setback in the fight against banditry as 7 Air Force officials on surveillance mission to Niger State have died after the military aircraft they were traveling in crash-landed shortly after takeoff from the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. The aircraft, a Beechcraft King Air B350I, crashed while returning to Abuja Airport after reporting engine failure en route Mina. Our correspondent, Linda Kigbe, reports.
This is the site where a military aircraft crashed in Basa, a community few kilometers away from the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. Residents tell Channels Television that they saw the plane hover in the air for a brief moment before plunging to the ground, narrowly missing some houses in the community. It exploded on impact.
I was in the church, so when some people around my church were shouting that they were shouting Jesus, Jesus, Odo. So at that point, some of us, we came out of the church. So when we came out, we now discovered that there's an aircraft on the air, was like going like this. We're like, what is going on? Are they joking with it or stuff like that? So it was later, after some seconds, we now got to know that this one is no more a joke again. So the aircraft was like, although it's still close by to the airport, it has not gone far yet. So the aircraft was like coming straight down like this. We now see that this one is not a joke again.
I saw the pilot. The pilot was struggling. He was coming from this side. I thought he just take off from airport. I think as he was coming, he just drove down. He tried to come up again. In fact, it's a merciful that pilot. I saw it as he was going down. He struggled to go back to the airport. At the end of the day, just crashed down. I saw it when the plane exploded.
Firefighters arrived at the scene after the crash. Military personnel, officials of the National Emergency Management Agency and the Red Cross also rushed to the crash site. Security agents create a barrier around the site, chasing onlookers and preventing journalists from getting close. This is after pictures and videos of the crash scene went viral. Officials of the Accident Investigation Bureau and the Air Force are at the crash site inspecting the debris. The spokesman for the Air Force, Air Vice Marshal Ibikunle Daramola, confirms that all 7 personnel on board died in the crash. Their remains have been evacuated from the scene. He also confirms that the victims were on a surveillance mission to Niger State and its environs in connection with efforts to secure the release of the students and staff abducted from the Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State. It's tough days ahead for the families and loved ones of the victims of the crash as they try to come to terms with the devastating loss. The Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Oladayo Amau, has ordered an investigation into the cause of the crash and appeals to the public to remain calm and await the outcome of the investigation. Linda Kibe, Channels Television News.
The Nigerian Air Force has now released the names of officers who died in the Beechcraft King Air B350I plane crash. The officers are Flight Lieutenant Haruno Gadzama, who was the captain, Flight Lieutenant Henry Pio, the co-pilot, Flying Officer Michael Okpara, Warrant Officer Basse Etim, Flight Surgeons Olashukomi Olawumi, Surgeons Ugochukwu Oluka, and Aircraftman Adewale Johnson. The officers were on their way to Niger State to conduct surveillance missions over Niger State and its environs in connection with the concerted efforts to secure the release of the students and staff abducted from the Government Science College, Kagara, in Niger State. They had reported engine failure before the crash. Meanwhile, the president has sent his condolences to the Nigerian Air Force and families of the officers who died in the plane crash. The president said in a statement he is deeply saddened by the fatal crash as he joins the Air Force, the military, and other Nigerians in mourning the unfortunate loss of the dedicated and courageous personnel who died in the line of duty. President Buhari notes that while investigations into the cause of the crash are ongoing, the safety of Nigerian airspace remains key priority for the government. He prays that God will comfort the bereaved families and the nation and grant the souls of the departed peaceful rest. The ill-fated aircraft was said to have been on its way to Niger State on a surveillance mission before the crash. This is part of concerted efforts to secure the release of the students and staff abducted from Government Science College, Kagara, as we have said. Our correspondent in Mina, Emperor Simon, gives us an update on the situation there and how the state government is reacting to the development.
The fatal air crash is one that could be described as unfortunate for the nation, especially at this critical time that the country is grappling with so many security challenges. But it's most saddening for Niger State, where the aircraft was said to be airbound and it was expected to come and carry out air surveillance from what we've gathered. Now, Governor Abubakar Bello, responding or reacting to what has happened, has described it as a setback because, according to him, that aircraft would have helped strengthen military operations. Now that the Niger State is under serious security threats, and it appears that the capacity of the military and every other security apparatus seem to have been overstretched. So Governor Abubakar Bello is sad, particularly that, that aircraft would have helped in supporting government's effort towards rescuing the over 40 persons that were abducted from the Government Science Secondary School, Kagara. But there is a cheering news for Niger State, as we've gathered that many persons that were abducted from the government-owned bus days before the Kagara incidents have been rescued somewhere around Zamfara State. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Our thoughts and prayers continue to be with the families of these heroes. Now back here in Nigeria, but in Imo State, the former Imo State governor is in custody of the Imo State Police Command for questioning over his alleged involvement and forceful entry into a property that was confiscated by the state government a few days ago. According to the public relations officer of the command, Orlando Ikoku, the command received a distress call that there was commotion and violence at Royal Spring Palm Hotel, located at Akachi Road in Owerri, a property allegedly linked to the wife of the former governor, Nkechi Okorocha. He says in order to ensure that there is no breakdown of law and order in the state, the police swung into action to maintain peace and invited Senator Rochas Okorocha. Senator later was involved in an altercation with the special advisor to the Imo State governor, Chinasa Nwaneri, before he was taken away in a police vehicle.
In 2001, you know that? I'm the one. I tell Fred. You know. No, you know now. You know. You're 53. I'm 56. I'm 50.
Whatever you're doing.
I'm the one that can you. I can you away. I can you away. I tell Fred. You know. You know.
Can you stop that nonsense?
Who are you? Who are you? Don't you know you're in 2001, I go on.
You pay for it. Stop.
Let's go.
The former Imo State Governor, Rochas Okorocha, spoke to us earlier this evening about what happened earlier today.
What happened is something I can't even imagine. I went to, came back from an occasion, and I proceeded to the Royal Palm Hotel to see to acquire what actually happened. On getting to the Royal Palm Hotel, I saw a lot of thugs. I didn't know they were waiting. So they started molesting, cutting my boys, shooting. But the police were there too. And the police did nothing and said nothing. And they started macheting. So my orderlies, I warned them nobody should shoot. So they rushed me to a room and locked me up. So those boys had tear gas. The police also were throwing tear gas. Everything. As they were advancing, the police were backing them up. And they were coming and were shooting. So I inquired the state government house police and asked, listen, is this with the directive of the IG or directive of the CP? Can the governor actually use government house police to do what he's doing? And then they kept me in a room for some time, but all my boys got injured. In fact, right now, my in-law was shot. His leg has been scattered. And he's right now bleeding, so I hope he makes it. The situation is quite bad, and surprisingly, the police whisked me into a pickup and brought me to police station, and I'm here now. As I'm here, I'm just doing, they've not said anything to me. I asked them, what is my offense? Well, they said conspiracy and public disorder and just something I can't understand. So they said it was the governor that directed them that made a report to them to arrest me. So I'm still at a big shock and confused as to what is happening here.
The voice of former Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha. In other news, we told you earlier about the rescue of abducted persons in Kagara local government area of Niger State. The governor spoke to us earlier this evening about the situation. He was guest on our political program, Politics Today.
When the students of Kagara are located around Benengwari in Kaduna State, which I believe very soon they will be back home. As you are aware, the security issue needs more commitment from all stakeholders. We have two major problems of insecurity in the north, which banditry and Boko Haram. The security operatives are doing their best, but we must all put our hand on deck to succeed. And, another issue is that all the leaders who are stakeholders must come to terms with the challenges at hand and ensure, to speak with one voice. The template is easily, is a focus on inviting various groups to subscribe to our non-kinetic approach of forgiveness, disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration of repentant bandits into the society. That's how it means. And we consider this peace process as the best approach, as large numbers of those participating in various crimes of kidnapping animals, banditry, etc. were pushed into this by circumstances. Such reprisals and the lawlessness of self-acclaimed vigilante group. So our issue here is that we are not saying that, we all know there is the criminal out of them. And most of them, it was pushed by some acclaimed vigilante group, among others.
In part two, after the break, bandits killed 2 persons, kidnapped 9 others in Baka village in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Air Force plane on surveillance missions in Niger State crashes in Abuja, killing all passengers and crew on board. Police invite former Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha for questioning after commotion at a confiscated property linked to his wife in Owerri. Bandits killed 2 persons, kidnapped 9 others in Baka village in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. And a crowd of protesters mourn woman killed during protest against military coup in Myanmar. Open grazing is no longer acceptable in Nigeria, and with time might soon be criminalized. That appears to be the position of Nigerian governors as a way of stopping the farmer-herder crisis in the country. The governors have agreed that the herders must now embrace a more modern approach to keeping their cattle. The chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Kayode Fayemi, explained the position of the governors on Channels Television's Sunday Politics.
We have said that states should take greater control over their forest zones and ensure that those who have no business in the forest are removed from the forest. But don't forget, there are also communities that have been in this forest for such a long time. What we're discovering in our investigation is that sometimes there may be collusion between the communities that are local to some forests and the invaders that have become criminals, utilizing the forest for their nefarious activity. So where it crosses the line from evidently legal and lawful practice and where they're not registered, then they should be out of the forest. But the important point is that we need to take charge of our forest. In many states, they don't even have forest rangers again. We used to have forest rangers when we were young, that were effectively in control of forests. We are also aware that in some other countries, the military actually take responsibility for securing the forest. If you go to Cameroon or you go to Chad, you will see this.
To Kaduna State, where bandits have killed a man and his son in an attack on Igabi local government area of the state. The State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, says the bandits invaded Baka village on Saturday and attacked the residence of one Saleh Musa, shot him and his son dead. The commissioner explains that the bandits operating in groups also abducted 9 persons, mostly women and children. Meanwhile, in a separate attack today, bandits also attacked a village in Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State, burning down houses and a worship center. The bandits razed the building of the Holy Family Catholic Church and 2 homes in Kikwari village in the local government area. Mr. Aruwan further explains that the residents fled the area on receiving information that the bandits had been sighted outside the village. But in Ogun State, police authorities say they have arrested 3 herdsmen for the alleged role in the attack in Bamajo village in Ayetoro, Yawa North area of the state. The police public relations officer, Abimbola Oyeyemi, says the men had attacked the village, setting houses ablaze and inflicting deep machete cuts on one Ismaila Alabi. He says the police combed the scene, even extending the search to Igwaje bush, where one of the herdsmen was apprehended with a gun and a blood-stained cutlass. The Commissioner of Police, Edward Ajogun, has ordered the immediate transfer of the suspects, to State Criminal Investigation and Intelligence Department for further investigation. In the meantime, the Chief of Army Staff, Major General Ibrahim Atahiru, has given a 48-hour order for the clearance of Mate and 3 other communities in Borno State. The Army Chief gave the order in Dikwa local government area, headquarters of the Super Camp 9 of Operation Lafia Dole. His visit is sequel to attacks in the next town, Mate, which caused panic among civilians. Normalcy has since been restored to Dikwa, and the Chief of Army Staff has addressed the people, seeking their cooperation and support.
The essence of this visit is operational. The idea is to motivate you. In the last few days, we had attacks in your area of responsibility. It is now high time we get back and fight through and support our forces ahead of you. Areas around Marte, Chukungudu, Peranua, up to Kita will go must be cleared in the next 48 hours. You will be rest assured of all the support required in this very onerous task. You cannot let this nation down. You must go there and do the needful, and I will be right behind you. Having said that, be rest assured of all the support required. I will ensure you do your job and do your job well.
And in the southeast, normalcy appears to have returned to Olu local government area of Imo State, days after a joint military operation in the area over what the military said is sighting of illegal camps, allegedly built by members of the Eastern Security Network, IPOB. Our correspondent who visited the area reports that economic activities have picked up and people are going about their normal, lawful duties. However, the President General of Apex Igbo Socio-Cultural Group, Ohaneze Ndigbo, Professor George Obiozo, who paid a visit to the chairman of the Traditional Council in the area, sued for peace and called on the people of Olu to support the government against any group trying to cause disunity in the country.
The streets of Olu and Osutan back to life again as economic activities are gradually returning to normal. This is coming days after the joint military operation in the area, occasioned by intelligence reports revealing that illegal camps are allegedly being built by members of the Eastern Security Network of IPOB in the area. This incident may have gotten the attention of the leadership of the Apex Igbo Socio-Cultural Group, Ohaneze Ndigbo, who paid a courtesy visit to the chairman of the traditional institution in the area to seek first-hand information.
No matter how bad Nigeria problems may be, peaceful solution will be best to guarantee Nigerian unity. Although as a zone is traditionally known for being the most peaceful zone in Imo State and one of the most peaceful zones in the whole country. We appeal to the leaders of Olu to continue to maintain peace.
Olu zone is calm and peaceful.
The traditional ruler on his part decries the attention generated over the military operation, which he claims was carried out professionally.
What happened was that some people who are enemies of the government just organized themselves to cause trouble and panic. The military operation are here to bring peace, and they are not doing harm to anybody.
This is the second time within 1 month that Olu Zone in Imo State will be in the news for issues relating to unrest, especially between security operatives and suspected members of IPOB's Eastern Security Network. Hopefully, the authorities will continue to do everything possible to ensure that the peace now being enjoyed in Olu will be a lasting one. Ejitope Kutei, Channels Television News.
The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, has been defending the federal government's handling of the nation's security challenges. He told Channels Television's Ladi Akerjulale on our current affairs program, Newsnight, that even with the current challenges, federal authorities are working with states to use various methods to address the problem. He also gave reasons why criminal elements are targeting schools.
I want to believe that whatever the regional security group is, it wants to keep the peace. But I agree with you that we must be careful not to worsen the problem. Because once you become part of the problem as opposed to the solution, then it becomes a problem. But I believe that the IGP, the Minister of State, will work out this arrangement between the various regional security forces. Every security in the world must learn to adapt to the changing tactics of terrorists. You've forgotten that a few years ago, hardly a day passed without one suicide bomber blow himself up that we were able to arrest. A few years ago, places of worship were not safe. A few years ago, Boko Haram was in virtually 10 states operating daily. A few years ago, Boko Haram would stroll into Abuja, go to the force headquarters, bomb them, go to United Nations headquarters, kill people, go to the motor park, explode bombs, go to media headquarters. But all that has been contained now. So we will continue to adapt to meet the challenges. You can see now that school children is now their focus, because that, you see, when children are kidnapped, parents, everybody is very worried.
You can watch the full interview with Alhaji Lai Mohammed on Newsnight. It airs tomorrow, Monday, February 22nd, right here on Channels Television at 9 p.m. When the News at 10 returns, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP asks federal government to probe alleged corruption in Universal Basic Education Commission and State Universal Basic Education Boards between 2004 and 2020. Stay with us. Welcome back. I want to remind you of our lead story tonight. The military plane crash in the nation's capital, Abuja, today. All 7 passengers and crew members on the aircraft died in the accident. They were on a surveillance mission to Niger State, where they would have been a part of the operation to rescue the 41 persons abducted from the Government Science College, Kagara, including students. The Beechcraft King Air B350I aircraft was handed over to the Nigerian Air Force in 2015 and is not known to have been involved in many crashes. The last time the Beechcraft Super King Air 350I crashed was on July 15, 2020, and it was a plane operated by the Turkey General Directorate of Security, which was also on a reconnaissance mission.
This is the site where a military aircraft crashed in Basa, a community few kilometers away from the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. Residents tell Channels Television that they saw the plane hover in the air for a brief moment before plunging to the ground, narrowly missing some houses in the community. It exploded on impact.
I was in the church, so when some people around my church were shouting that they were shouting Jesus, Jesus, Odo. So at that point, some of us, we came out of the church. So when we came out, we now discovered that there's an aircraft on the air, was like going like this. We're like, what is going on? Are they joking with it or stuff like that? So it was later, after some seconds, we now got to know that this one is no more a joke again. So the aircraft was like, although it's still close by to the airport, it has not gone far yet. So the aircraft was like coming straight down like this. We now see that this one is not a joke again.
I saw the pilot. The pilot was struggling. He was coming from this side. I thought he just take off from airport. I think as he was coming, he just drove down. He tried to come up again. In fact, it's a merciful pilot. I saw it as he was going down. He struggled to go back to the airport. At the end of the day, just crashed down. I saw it when the plane exploded.
Firefighters arrived at the scene after the crash. Military personnel, officials of the National Emergency Management Agency and the Red Cross also rushed to the crash site. Security agents create a barrier around the site, chasing onlookers and preventing journalists from getting close. This is after pictures and videos of the crash scene went viral. Officials of the Accident Investigation Bureau and the Air Force are at the crash site inspecting the debris. The spokesman for the Air Force, Air Vice Marshal Ibikunle Daramola, confirms that all 7 personnel on board died in the crash. Their remains have been evacuated from the scene. He also confirms that the victims were on a surveillance mission to Niger State and its environs in connection with efforts to secure the release of the students and staff abducted from the Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State. It's tough days ahead for the families and loved ones of the victims of the crash as they try to come to terms with the devastating loss. The Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Oladayo Amau, has ordered an investigation into the cause of the crash and appeals to the public to remain calm and await the outcome of the investigation.
A meeting between the federal government and the organized labor is currently ongoing at the banquet hall of the State House, Abuja, as the labor continues discussions on a call for reduction in the cost of PMS and electricity tariff. The chairman of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Ayuba Waba, and other members of the organized labor, the Minister of Labour and Productivity, Mr. Chris Singige, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, NNPC GMD, and representatives of the power sector are all part of the meeting. The meeting comes at a time fresh indications are emerging that there may be another increase in the price of petrol. They are currently in a technical session and will bring you updates of their discussions as soon as we have them. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has asked President Muhammadu Buhari to order the probe of the alleged missing billions of naira from the Universal Basic Education Commission and State Universal Basic Education Boards. SERAP wants the president to direct the appropriate anti-corruption agencies to look into the allegations of corruption between 2004 and 2020 in both agencies. The anti-corruption watchdog also urged the president to make the outcome of the investigation public and fully recover any missing funds. SERAP alleges that the allegations of corruption in UBEC and SUBEBs violate the right to education of millions of Nigerian children who continue to face unsuitable learning conditions, as shown by the poor learning and boarding facilities at the Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State, where dozens of school children, teachers and their relatives were abducted by gunmen. And now to the arts. This exhibition, tagged Festival of Unity at the National Gallery in Lagos, of our heroes past mixed with present-day creativity, is testament to there is strength in being together.
It's a trip down memory lane for the guests who moved to the National Gallery in Lagos to enjoy this pictorial display of the country's leadership, which is a constant for those who are regulars here.
The essence of the show is actually to key visual arts component into the Festival of Unity that has been organized by the National Theatre, because we believe that no festival is complete without visual arts.
But there's more to this collection, and it's revealed by other works of art during the exhibition aspect of the Festival of Unity.
In 2015, the foundation, which I represent as well, documented the national collection, and we documented over 1,000 works, 1,000 artworks, not talking about photographs, just artworks, sculptures, paintings. And we've been looking for a way to display or show this to the public. Yes, there's a public display of works, but there are so many people who know about, just so many people who know about the national collection. So we thought this would be a historic and a really fun way of giving people a peek into the national collection, which is the name.
It took months of planning to get here, but the art team did not want to disappoint, but show works that emphasize that unity theme.
Back to the news now. The absence of a proper drainage system and a blocked canal is causing anxiety among residents of Okorocha community in Lagos State. Residents of the area are afraid of being sacked by flood and are therefore appealing to the Lagos State government to fix the perennial challenge before the return of heavy rains.
Stretching as long as 8 kilometers, Potoku Canal is the longest in Lagos State. It serves as a collection point for 18 communities between Igondo in Alimosho and Obadore in Ojo local government area. The Abaronja section of the canal is narrow and shallow, unable to contain the volume of rainwater in the area. The blockade is further worsened by the indiscriminate dumping of refuse washed from other parts. The aftermath of heavy downpour causes an overflow that runs into homes and other properties. Watermarks on the wall show that houses without high and solid foundations are mostly affected.
As of April 2019, they came for the clearance, but last year we didn't see them, and it was a very big havoc on our community. So this year now, just the first minor rains that fell, almost every community around here were on the run. So we were afraid that if by the time the full rainy season will come on, almost nobody will be living around here.
Wall fortifications and wooden bridges linked to houses are measures taken by residents to stay safe from floods during the rainy season.
If they drag this canal now, in the next 3 months, if you come around, it will look as if nothing has been done at all. That is why my people are talking about the wideness and the depth of the canal itself. And the final solution is for the government to come to our aid to continue and complete the work, the good work they've started at the at the entrance of Potoku.
A properly constructed drainage is noticed at the Igondo end of the canal, although with garbage in it. The Lagos State Office of the Drainage Services is aware of the situation, but that the topography would impede the kind of intervention expected from the residents.
Potoku is a natural channel. Upstream of that area, we have done the concrete lining, more like a collector. But the lower part, which is low line, is in its earth form. And people building around this area are actually very low lying. So the plan of the office is just to go there and clean the refuse, because what you have in the canal is refuse, floatables, plastics, or what have you, and vegetation. So the best we can do is just to clean, not dredging. Because when you say use the word dredging, that means you're taking away, you're digging, you're taking away earth.
Despite several warnings, some residents still take the risk to build houses into the right-of-way of the canal. For now, residents are left with the solution proffered by the Office of Drainage Services and self-help efforts while hoping for a long-term, sustainable intervention.
And back to security, a coalition of 68 civil society organizations is alleging that the current government has failed Nigerians in its primary duty of ensuring the security and welfare of citizens. In a joint statement, the CSOs said Nigeria is in dire straits as a result of criminal attacks and extrajudicial killings by state actors. A group alleges that the federal government, through the Minister of Defense, has, according to them, callously abdicated its responsibility and called Nigerian citizens cowards by urging them to defend themselves. The civil society group said kidnapping for ransom has assumed an industrial and deadly scale never witnessed on the African continent, and that children are no longer safe in schools, while communities are pauperized by terrorists who extort huge ransoms while murdering their hostages. Some of the CSOs include Center for Democracy and Development, Center for Democratic Research and Training, among others. UK Health Secretary Matt Hancock says early data shows there's been a reduction in transmission in people who have had a coronavirus vaccine, as hospital admissions are falling much more sharply than they were in the pandemic's first wave. Speaking on TV earlier today, Mr. Hancock said the government aims to offer a first jab to all adults in the UK by the end of July, with 1 in 3 adults already vaccinated. Here's more in our global update.
There are signs that the numbers in hospital are falling.
The health minister also said Britain believes it is getting on top of outbreaks of a South African variant of the coronavirus and has been seeing signs hospitalizations are falling quickly following vaccine rollout.
We have seen early data that there's a reduction in transmission from those who get the jab. But that is early data, and there's more work that's being done. But we are able, from today, to be able to announce that we will be offering a vaccine to all those who are over 50 and in the top 9 priority groups by the 15th of April, and then to all adults by the end of July.
France is considering new measures in the region surrounding the tourist southern city of Nice as it faces an increase in COVID-19 infection rates in recent days. The Nice area has France's highest COVID-19 infection rate, with 740 new cases per week per 100,000 residents. Meanwhile, in the United States, teachers now have a roadmap to reopening schools that doesn't hinge entirely on complete vaccination of all educators, so says the country's top infectious diseases specialist, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Pressure to reopen or expand in-person learning for students has been building across the country in recent weeks as the impact of remote learning on education and family life has become more apparent. Israel, on the other hand, has reopened swathes of its economy, including malls and leisure facilities, on Sunday, with the government saying the start of a return to routine has been enabled by COVID-19 vaccines, administered to almost half of the population. Shops are open to all, but access to gyms, hotels and theatres is still limited to people with a green pass, that is, those who have had both doses of the vaccine more than a week prior or recovered from the disease with presumed immunity. Finally, the United Arab Emirates has received a new batch of coronavirus vaccines at its international airport earlier today, as the country surpasses the 50% of inoculation for its population. The UAE has vaccinated almost 56% of its population as of Sunday, according to the National Emergency Crisis and Disaster Management Authority, in a push to achieve herd immunity for its population of 10 million. The new shipment of Pfizer-BioNTech is likely to go towards vaccinating the elderly and people who are with chronic health conditions, after the country announced it would focus on these groups on February 7th, as well as frontline workers. United Airlines flight landed safely in Denver after its right engine failed, with debris from the plane scattered over the residential area. The Boeing 777-200 with 231 passengers and 10 crew aboard, was heading to Honolulu when it had an engine failure soon after takeoff. There are no reports of injuries either on the plane or on the ground. Images posted by police in Broomfield, Colorado, showed significant debris on the ground, including an engine cowling scattered outside a home and what appeared to be other parts in a field. Broomfield Police has asked residents not to touch or move the debris, as the Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board will be carrying out an investigation. Thousands are mourning Mia Twetwe Keng, the 19-year-old girl shot in the head during anti-coup protests in Myanmar, who died last week. A supermarket worker was injured when the police tried to disperse protesters earlier this month. From then on, she was put on life support for 10 days before she died on Friday. Mia Twetwe Keng was shot just before her 20th birthday. Today, the protest took a different turn, mourning not only her, but others killed in the protests by security forces. Hundreds attended Mia's funeral. They swore they would continue protesting against military dictatorship until they get rid of the regime. Also today, they set up a small memorial site for 2 men who died during violence crackdown in Mandalay yesterday, pledging that they will continue to demonstrate against the coup for the sake of lost lives. The trouble in Mandalay began with confrontations between the security forces and striking shipyard workers. Video clips on social media showed members of the security forces firing at protesters, and witnesses said that they found the spent cartridges of live rounds and rubber bullets. Meanwhile, hundreds gathered outside the U.S. Embassy as dusk settled to hold a candlelight vigil for those who have died during the last 21 days of protests across the country. This was attended by huge crowds in defiance of the police crackdown. The military has been unable to quell the demonstrations, and a civil disobedience campaign of strikes against the coup and the detention of elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi and others, even with the promise of new elections and stern warnings against dissent. The largely peaceful protests, which have gone on for more than 2 weeks, have been largely peaceful until Saturday. Unlike previous episodes of opposition during nearly half a century of direct military rule to 2011. In sports news, world number 1 Novak Djokovic has made it 3 titles in a row at Melbourne Park after clinching this year's Australian Open earlier today. The Serb did it in straight sets, 7-5, 6-2, 6-2 against Russia's Daniil Medvedev. Let's see how the action played out at the Rod Laver Arena.
This year's Australian Open, a tournament that had to contend with many uncertainties due to the COVID-19 pandemic, came to a climax with reigning champion Novak Djokovic up against first-time finalist Daniil Medvedev, immediately clinching the first set 7-5.
The question is, how did he manage to win here 9 times out of 9? Probably all the 9 times he was better than his opponent, so I don't have an answer to this question. He definitely was good. I definitely could have done better, but even if I would have done better, doesn't mean that the score would be different. So today we have this score. I'm the loser, he's the winner, and that's point, you know.
It has been definitely one of the emotionally most challenging Grand Slams that I've ever had, with everything that was happening, you know, injury and off-the-court stuff, quarantines, and has been, at least to say, a roller coaster ride in the last, 4 weeks.
Here is your champion for 2021.
To the English Premier League, West Ham moved into the top 4 with a 2-1 victory over Tottenham that increases the pressure on Spurs manager Jose Mourinho. West Ham were ahead inside 5 minutes thanks to the returning Mikel Antonio's 5th goal against Spurs before Lonnie Lingard continued his fine form with the Hammers' 2nd early in the second half. Leicester moved up to 2nd of the Premier League after securing a 2-1 victory against Aston Villa. Manchester City extended their winning run to 18 games as they continue their impressive march towards the Premier League title with victory at Arsenal. And the main news again, all 7 passengers and crew members on a military plane on surveillance mission to Niger State died today after their plane crashed near the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. Also today, police invited former Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha for questioning after commotion at a confiscated property linked to his wife in Owerri. And a crowd of protesters today mourned a woman killed during the protest against a military coup in Myanmar. She was shot in the head just a few days to her 20th birthday. That is on the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night and stay safe.